Disclaimer: this story explores mature emotional themes such as grief, family tension, and personal transformation. While there is no explicit content, viewer discretion is advised. The first thing you need to know is that I never wanted to be anyone's stepmother. It's not that I had anything against kids, I just never pictured myself in that role. I met Daniel late in life, both of us already worn a little thin by the world. He was kind, steady, a widower. We moved fast. At our age, you don't waste time. His son, Ryan, was 23 when I moved in. An adult, technically, but the kind of adult who still lived at home, drifting through part-time jobs and online classes, like life was a hallway he wasn't quite ready to walk down. We weren't close. Polite, mostly. He called me Michelle, never Mom or anything close. I didn't expect that. Still, the house felt balanced, quiet, in that heavy way silence gets when no one really knows how to talk to each other. Then Daniel died. It was sudden. A heart attack. One moment he was in the garden trimming the hedges, the next he was gone. I don't even remember the funeral, just flashes, handshakes, too much black, casseroles we never ate. The house emptied out after that, but not all the way. Ryan stayed. Or maybe I did. It felt like we were both just lingering. That's where this starts. Just the two of us in a house built for three. A house that now echoed when you dropped a fork. That carried his voice in the floorboards, in the smell of his aftershave that still clung to the bathroom tile. That remembered everything we wanted to forget. Ryan avoided me at first, burying himself in his room, headphones on, screen always glowing. I kept to myself. We shared a roof, but lived in separate worlds, tiptoeing around each other like we were afraid the floor might crack if we stepped too hard. And then, one night, everything shifted. It was raining. Not a gentle, cinematic drizzle, but the kind of downpour that makes you feel like the sky is breaking. I was in the kitchen, microwaving leftover soup, when the power cut out. Total blackout. The kind that swallows everything in one blink. I fumbled for my phone, its screen casting a weak blue light across the counter, and that's when I heard it. Footsteps. Heavy ones. Coming down the hall. Ryan? I called out. No answer. Then he appeared, a silhouette in the doorway, backlit by a flash of lightning. He was soaked through, like he'd gone outside in the storm. His eyes weren't angry or scared. Just focused. Intent. He didn't speak right away. Just looked at me like he'd finally made a decision about something that had been eating at him for a long time. I need to talk to you, he said, voice flat. Okay, I said, setting the bowl down. What is it? But he didn't answer. Not yet. Instead, he walked over to the drawer. That drawer, the one Daniel always kept locked. The one I never touched. He pulled out a small key from his pocket, turned the lock, and opened it. I didn't even know he had the key. Inside was a thick folder. Brown, worn, the edges curled with age. Ryan picked it up like he knew exactly what he was looking for. Like this wasn't the first time he'd thought about doing it. Then he looked at me. You don't know who my dad really was, he said. And that was the moment. The exact second when I realized we weren't just two people lost in grief, orbiting around a dead man's memory. There was more. And Ryan, quiet, aimless Ryan, was about to change everything. I stood frozen in the kitchen, watching Ryan as he set the folder on the table between us. The storm raged outside, but inside, the air was still. Heavy. The only sound was the hum of rain against the windows and the occasional crack of thunder in the distance. He didn't open it right away. Instead, he sat down, elbows on the table, eyes on me like he was waiting to see what I'd do. I used to think he was a good man, he said quietly. But I've been going through his things since he died. And I don't know anymore. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. I felt like the foundation of the house had shifted just slightly beneath my feet. Ryan, I said, trying to keep my voice calm, what's in the folder? He hesitated. His jaw clenched. I found letters. Financial records. Stuff from before he met you. Stuff he never told me. I know he was hiding something. I sat down across from him. My hands felt cold. We had both lost the same person, but we carried different versions of him. Daniel, to me, had been gentle, thoughtful, predictable in the comforting way that makes a marriage feel solid. I couldn't picture him lying, let alone hiding something that could shake Ryan like this. Ryan opened the folder. Photos, papers, envelopes with names I didn't recognize. He flipped through them like he'd memorized the order. Bank statements from accounts I'd never seen. Transactions in cities Daniel had never mentioned. Letters from someone named Elise, always signed with the same line, "You promised me." I blinked, trying to make sense of it. "Who's Elise?" I asked. "That's what I'm trying to figure out," Ryan said. "She started writing to him before I was born." The letters go back over 20 years. And then they just stop. Right around the time my mom got sick. His voice cracked on that last word. He cleared his throat quickly, but it was too late. I saw the grief tighten in his face. "Do you think he had an affair?" He shook his head. "Maybe. Or maybe something worse." Some of the letters talk about money. About starting over. And there's a photo. He handed it to me. A woman I didn't recognize, holding a toddler that could have been Ryan's twin. The date scrawled in the corner was months before his birth. "I think he had another family," Ryan said. I tried to respond, but my brain stalled. None of this fit the man I knew. And yet, here was the proof. Tangible. Intimate. Devastating. I looked at Ryan. For the first time since Daniel's death, I saw past the quiet, past the anger he tried to bury under sarcasm and distance. He wasn't just grieving his father, he was grieving the version of his father he thought was real. "I don't know what to do with this," he said. "I don't even know if I want answers." I understood that. Some truths come with fallout you can't prepare for. We sat in silence for a moment, the storm finally beginning to ease outside. "What do you want from me, Ryan?" I asked, not unkindly. He looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time since I'd moved in. "I want to know if you knew," he said. That hit harder than I expected. I didn't. But now I realized how little either of us really knew about the man who tied us together. And the folder sitting between us felt like a fuse. Still burning. The next morning, the house felt different. Not just quieter, charged, like it was holding its breath. Ryan was already up, sitting at the dining table with a coffee he hadn't touched. The folder was still there, now spread open like an autopsy. I poured myself a cup and sat across from him again, even though we hadn't said good morning. "I barely slept," he said without looking up. "Kept dreaming about that kid in the photo." I didn't respond right away. There was nothing easy to say. The resemblance was undeniable. If it wasn't him, it was someone close, maybe a half-brother. Maybe someone else entirely. But the possibility hung there like smoke. "You ever notice how Dad used to disappear for a couple days every few months?" Ryan asked suddenly. Said he was working with clients out of state. But he never brought back receipts. No photos. Not even a story. I had noticed. Early in our relationship, I chalked it up to old routines or a need for space. Later, I stopped asking questions. He always came back warm, smiling, like he'd missed me. That was enough. Now, I wasn't sure what any of it meant. While Ryan sifted through more documents, I flipped open one of the letters. Elise wrote like someone who loved and hated the same person at once. Desperate, sarcastic, pleading. She mentioned promises Daniel had made about leaving that life behind, no names, just vague references. It sounded like someone trapped between two identities. Two families. Two truths. But the real weight hit with a utility bill from a town 3 hours away. Paid by Daniel's name. The date? Just 6 months before he died. "Do you want to go there?" I asked. "See if there's anything still there?" Ryan looked up. "What if we find something we can't come back from? Then at least we won't be stuck here wondering." We didn't talk much during the drive. The radio played low static. I glanced at Ryan a few times. He looked older, sharper somehow. Like this search had aged him overnight. Part of me worried that chasing ghosts would only make the hole Daniel left even deeper. The address led us to a faded, two-story duplex tucked behind a gas station. There was no car in the driveway, but the mailbox still had mail. I felt my pulse pick up as Ryan approached the door. He hesitated, then knocked. No answer. He knocked again. Just as we turned to leave, the door cracked open. A woman in her 40s stood there, cautious but calm. She had Ryan's eyes. "Can I help you?" she asked, and her voice, God, it had the same cadence as Daniel's when he was trying to be careful with his words. Ryan froze. I'm not sure. I'm looking for someone who lived here. Daniel Madsen." The woman didn't blink. "You're Ryan, aren't you?" That was when I knew. Not suspected, knew. Whatever version of Daniel we'd each known, she had her own too. And they were about to collide. She stepped outside, closed the door behind her. "He told me about you. Said you were doing well," she said. "Said it was better to keep things separate." "What are you to him?" Ryan asked. Her jaw tensed. "I'm his daughter." Silence. One beat. Two. Then Ryan laughed, sharp, bitter, empty. And I realized this wasn't just about secrets. It was about identity. In trying to find out who Daniel really was, Ryan was being forced to face who he was too. And this woman, this stranger with familiar eyes, was just the beginning. Ryan didn't say anything for a long time, just stared at her like he was trying to recognize himself in her face. I could see the storm starting behind his eyes again, the one he'd tried to keep contained since the night he opened that drawer. Her name was Harper. She invited us inside. The place was modest, clean, quiet, filled with small details Daniel would have loved. Framed art on the walls. Stacks of books. A half-completed puzzle on the coffee table. It smelled like coffee and something faintly floral. Nothing about it screamed secret family, but everything about it confirmed he'd lived a life we weren't supposed to know about. "I didn't think I'd ever meet you," Harper said, sitting across from Ryan. "He always said it would be too hard. Too complicated." Ryan let out a shaky breath. "No kidding." I sat beside him, unsure if I should even be here. This wasn't my blood, but I was tied to it. Tethered by a man who'd built his entire legacy on compartmentalization. Harper handed Ryan a photo. Daniel, maybe 10 years younger, holding a toddler on a beach. "Her daughter," Harper said. "His granddaughter." Ryan blinked hard, but didn't look away. "Did he tell you about my mom?" he asked. Harper nodded slowly. "A little. Enough to know he never really stopped loving her." Ryan flinched like the words hit him physically. "He said she died too early. That she was his anchor," Harper added. "She was," Ryan said, voice cracking. "And apparently, so was yours." The silence that followed was unbearable. Heavy with everything Daniel had never said, with everything now falling into the laps of the people left behind. "Why didn't he tell us?" Ryan asked. "Why keep us from each other?" Harper answered with something between a sigh and a whisper. "I think he wanted to be the right version of himself, depending on where he was. With you, he could be the grieving husband. With me, he was someone trying to make up for lost time. So he lied to everyone. I think he was lying to himself." That was the moment Ryan broke. He stood abruptly, pacing the room like it was closing in on him. "He made me believe we were enough," he said. "Me and my mom. After she died, I thought, hell, I needed to think he was still that guy. The guy who stayed. Who didn't bail when things got messy." Harper stood too, calm but firm. "You think I didn't feel the same? You think it doesn't make me sick that he split his love across 2 families like it was nothing?" "No, I think it makes him a coward," Ryan snapped. And there it was. Raw. Honest. No way to put it back once it was said. He turned to me then. "And what about you? You didn't know, right?" I shook my head. "No. But now I don't know what I did know." That hit him harder than I expected. We stood there in Harper's living room, the 3 of us, each holding pieces of the same man, trying to fit them together into someone whole. But they didn't fit. Not really. You could love someone your whole life and still never know the edges they kept hidden. I need air, Ryan muttered, and stepped outside. I followed him a minute later, heart pounding, unsure what he was about to do. He was standing at the edge of the driveway, staring down the street like it might lead back to a version of life that made sense. I don't know who I am anymore, he said quietly. And before I could answer, a car pulled up to the curb. A woman stepped out. Older. Gray streak in her hair. She looked right at Ryan and stopped like she'd seen a ghost. "You're Daniel's boy, aren't you?" she said. Ryan turned, stunned. "Who are you?" She smiled, sad, tired. "I'm the first." Ryan stared at the woman like she'd just spoken in a language he didn't recognize. "The first what?" he asked, tension tightening every syllable. The woman took a slow step forward, not threatening, just steady. Her eyes flicked to me, then back to Ryan. "My name is Marianne," she said. "Daniel and I were married. Long before Harper. Before your mother." Silence stretched out like a wire ready to snap. "That's not possible," Ryan muttered, shaking his head. "My mom was his first wife. They met in college." Marianne didn't flinch. She reached into her purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper. A marriage certificate. Dated 1986. 15 years before Ryan was born. "He never divorced me," she said. "At least not legally." My breath caught. "Are you saying?" "I'm saying everything you thought you knew about him was built on a lie," she said calmly. "I didn't even know he was dead until last week. Someone in probate called me about his estate. They thought I was next of kin." Ryan backed up a step like the truth had weight. "So he married my mom. While still married to you?" Marianne nodded. "I was 22 when we got married. He traveled a lot. Said it was for work. I found out later it was for everything but." Harper had come outside by then, arms crossed tight, lips pressed thin. "You never told me this," she said. "I didn't know about you," Marianne said. "I knew he left. Knew he started over with someone else. But a daughter? No. That's new." Ryan turned away, hands on his head, pacing in wide, frantic circles. "This is insane," he said. "So what? He was married to 3 women? At the same time. Looks that way," I said quietly. "And if Marianne's name is still on his legal records, she's his legal widow," Harper finished. It hit all of us at once. The will, the house, the insurance, the estate. Marianne didn't look smug, just exhausted. "I didn't come here to fight. I came here to find out why he never came back. Why he vanished from my life and reappeared in yours." She paused, then looked directly at Ryan. "But if he died without settling this, you all might lose everything." Ryan looked like he'd been punched. "You mean you could take the house? My dad's savings?" "I don't want any of that," she said. "I just want answers. Closure. Like you." But Ryan wasn't hearing her. His grief had mutated into something darker now, betrayal, shame, rage. All of it bubbling just under the surface. "I thought I was getting to know my father," he said. "Turns out I've been chasing a ghost. A liar who built a life out of half-truths and fake promises." I stepped forward, trying to ground him. "Ryan, no," he cut in. "This whole time I thought it was about secrets. About some other family he didn't tell us about. But this? This means we were the secret. I was the secret." The words lingered in the air like smoke from a match. Harper finally spoke. "We need to figure out what's in the will." Marianne nodded. "We do. And if he never updated it, I might be entitled to everything." Ryan turned to me, eyes wide. "And if she is, that house isn't ours anymore." Then his voice dropped, barely above a whisper. "Which means we never really had a place in his life to begin with." And just like that, it wasn't just about uncovering Daniel's secrets. It was about fighting to hold on to what little they had left of him, even if none of it had ever really belonged to them. Ryan sat on the porch steps, hands clenched, shoulders stiff. The storm had passed, but inside him, it was still coming down hard. Marian was inside with Harper, quietly going over the legal mess Daniel had left behind. I stayed outside with Ryan, close but silent. There wasn't much comfort I could offer that wouldn't sound hollow. We were nothing to him, Ryan said finally, eyes on the street. Just placeholders. I shook my head. You don't believe that. He laughed bitterly. You're right. I don't. But it feels easier than believing he loved all of us and still chose to lie. He stood, pacing again like he had in Harper's living room. It wasn't just about money. Or secrets. He chose this. Chose to hide entire lives. Whole people. People who loved him, I added. That slowed him down. You said you never wanted to be a stepmom, he said, turning to face me. So, why are you still here? The question caught me off guard. But I didn't dodge it. Because after Daniel died, I thought I'd be the one helping you survive it. Turns out we were both trying to survive the same lie. And whether I signed up for this or not, I'm in it now. With you. He looked down, and for a moment I saw the version of Ryan from before all this, grieving, guarded, but still trying to find something worth holding onto. Then Harper came out, eyes red. He left a handwritten letter, she said. It was tucked behind the mirror in the second bedroom. Dated 6 weeks before he died. We followed her back inside. She placed the envelope on the table. No address, no names. Just a single word on the front, written in Daniel's familiar script. Forgive. Ryan opened it. If you're reading this, I'm gone. I won't waste time with excuses. The truth is, I spent too much of my life trying to be everything to everyone and ended up being honest with no one. I loved your mother, Ryan. I loved you. I loved Harper. I loved Marianne in a way that changed me, even if I didn't deserve her forgiveness. None of you were mistakes. I was just too weak to tell the truth. I've spent years waiting for the moment everything would catch up with me. Now it has. I hope someday you'll all talk to each other. You don't have to forgive me. But don't let what I broke keep breaking you. Dad, the silence afterward felt different. Not empty. Not quiet. Just full. Ryan passed the letter to Marianne. She read it, blinked hard, and handed it to Harper, who held it like it might shatter. I don't know if I can forgive him, Ryan said. You don't have to, I told him. But you can choose not to carry what he left behind. The next few days were slow. Heavy. But something shifted. Marianne didn't file for the estate. Instead, she offered to divide what little there was. Not because Daniel deserved that mercy, but because they did. Ryan stayed a while longer. Helped Harper meet the granddaughter she never knew she had. They started to talk, awkward at first, but then easier. Real. Eventually, we went back to the house. It was still his for now. We stood in Daniel's old office, me on one side of the room, Ryan on the other. The desk drawer was open again, the folder now empty. You think we'll ever really know who he was? He asked. No, I said. But I think we're starting to figure out who we are. And then the front door creaked open. A small envelope slid across the floor. No return address. Ryan picked it up. Inside was a single photo. A woman none of us had seen before. Holding a newborn. With Daniel standing behind her, smiling. And on the back, a date. 2 years after Harper was born. The photo changed everything, again. Just when we thought we'd uncovered the last of Daniel's secrets, the envelope brought a final blow. A woman none of us recognized. A baby. And a date that proved Daniel's double life was even more tangled than we realized. Ryan sat with the photo for a long time, barely speaking. Harper stood at the kitchen counter, silently making tea none of us would drink. Marianne had returned home 2 days earlier, needing space. And, honestly, so did we. But instead of exploding like before, Ryan did something else. He breathed. Then he turned to me and said, I'm done chasing ghosts. I believed him. It didn't mean he wasn't hurt, or confused, or angry. It just meant he was ready to start healing, even without all the answers. The truth was, we might never find out who that last woman was. There was no return address, no name. Just a piece of Daniel's past that floated in like a final echo. And maybe that's all it needed to be, an echo, not another wound. In the weeks that followed, Ryan made a decision. He didn't sell the house. He didn't run. Instead, he invited Harper to visit every Sunday. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they didn't. But they were building something real. And that felt like the only thing that mattered anymore. Marian filed to officially close Daniel's estate with a shared agreement. No lawsuits. No fights. Just 3 people who decided the past didn't need to define their future. She even sent Harper a letter, handwritten, apologizing for everything they never got to know about each other. And me? I stayed. Ryan started calling me M, without even realizing it. Not Mom, not Michelle. Just M. It felt like a nickname and a bridge at the same time. A small gesture that told me, you're still here, and that matters. In the end, the story wasn't about Daniel. It was about the people who had to rebuild after him. About how sometimes the truth doesn't bring closure, but it does bring clarity. Daniel lived multiple lives, each with their own love, their own lies, and their own loss. And when he died, he left pieces of himself with all of us. We picked up what we could, and we left the rest behind. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next? Let us know in the comments. We read everyone.